Brent, what can you tell me about Joseph Smith Papers Documents, Volume 8?
During this period, you see quite a bit of optimism. Nauvoo is growing. Hundreds of buildings are being erected, including the beginnings of the Nauvoo Temple and the Nauvoo boarding house. There's hundreds of Latter-day Saints from England and others that are coming in to gather with the saints in Nauvoo. Nauvoo City Council is established in February of 1841, and Joseph Smith is elected as a city councilor. In Missouri, they didn't feel that their religious freedoms were being protected, and so one of the early ordinances that are passed by the Nauvoo city government is this ordinance on religious toleration, and it provides a safe space for all religious denominations and sects to practice their religion freely in the city of Nauvoo. And at the same time, underneath the surface, there's some tension. One of the pieces of tension that arises is with Thomas Sharp, who is a editor of an important neighborhood newspaper, the Warsaw Signal. And Sharp becomes quite antagonistic of Joseph Smith and the Latter-day Saints. And Joseph writes a letter after reading some of the negative things that Sharp writes in his paper. He writes to Sharp and asks him to discontinue his newspaper subscription to the Signal. And Joseph signs it, "Yours with utter contempt, Joseph Smith." And so that kind of is a foreboding moment in the relationship between Thomas Sharp and Joseph Smith, because they start to have a very negative relationship that plays out publicly. But not all the press that is with the saints is negative.
That's right. One of the documents in this volume is a letter from a man named John Laws on October 18th, 1841. John Laws lived in Philadelphia, and he had relatives who were members of the church, but he wasn't a member of the church himself. And he started to see a number of editorials in various Philadelphia newspapers that were critical of Joseph Smith and critical of the saints, and made accusations that because of his relationship to some members of the church, Laws knew to be false. And so, without prompting or without anyone asking him to, Laws wrote at least 3 different articles for various Philadelphia newspapers defending the church. And then on October 18th, 1841, he wrote to Joseph Smith asking for additional information so that he could continue to write in defense of the church and clarify some of these things that people had misunderstood. It's really one of the inspiring documents to me. I have a lot of respect for John Laws just because no one had asked him to do this. He just knew that it was the right thing to do to defend people that were being criticized and persecuted in the press, and wanted to make a difference in that way.